Hey everyone, welcome to Collector Chatter. This is episode 75. I'm your host Migs here with my co-host Charlie. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the Funko earnings call from quarter two. They lost a lot of money and there's going to be some big changes. So we're going to talk about that. And we finally got some more NFTs, and it's kind of a dramatic drop if I'm not lying.
It totally is, and I can't wait to talk about it. So, everyone, you know what to do. Please like this video. And if you haven't already, please give us a subscribe because we really appreciate it. All right. With that being said, let's chat.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to episode 75. We took another week off, but we are back with some hard-hitting stuff. We are
Oh,
very
yeah.
excited for this. This episode is going to be mostly about the quarter two earnings and the call, everything that happened with Funko and all the stuff they announced, and the cuts and everything. So we're going to get into that. We'll get into some details, kind of what we think about it and what maybe it means for Funko going forward. And we definitely are going to talk about the NFT drop because it's been what months, it feels like,
Month.
I
It's all
think,
been over a
right?
month.
Since
Yeah.
there's been a new drop. But it's just so funny because there was so much drama that had to do with NFTs, and it kind of ties into what this new drop's going to be. So that's going to be
It's
fun to talk about.
wild.
It's very wild. Um, but we'll start it off with the call. So this, of course, was something that always happens, for the quarter, and they kind of see where their earnings were, what happened with the company, how much money they won, lost, whatever it is, right? The biggest thing was obviously the big headline was millions of dollars, 73 million. I think I saw
Yeah.
somewhere like how much money they lost in the second quarter, which is pretty massive because obviously the first quarter was not great. We know of a lot of stuff that has happened behind the scenes with Funko. Obviously, Brian is out as CEO. So a lot of changes have been happening. Stocks been falling. All that kind of stuff has been affected by all this stuff, right? But there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. So, I mean, we're going to kind of get into what we think about, just overall what's been going on, what this means for Funko, and kind of, what it means going forward. But we can kind of start it off with I know we talked about this before, but I don't know if we've ever officially said his name or anything, but the CEO, acting CEO now is Michael Lunsford, who took over for Brian. He actually has been on the board for like 5 years, so
Yeah.
he knows Funko. He's been there, and he has been a CEO for like two other pretty big major companies. So he obviously is a businessman. He kind of knows what he's doing. So I kind of think this is a good thing for Funko, that hopefully they get someone that's really business oriented and knows what he's doing. And we don't need to see his face. We don't need to see anything about him. We just need to know that he's running the company the right way, and, let Funmaker Mike show his face off in Instagram stuff, right?
Yes. I
That kind
mean,
of thing.
I completely agree with you. You just took the words out of my mouth, and I find it funny. Both of their names are Mike. So we
Yeah.
got Suit Mike and we got Fun Maker Mike, and it really should stay that way. As much as Brian at one point had the best of both worlds, I think that kind of ultimately did become a little bit of their demise. And I mean, we obviously still love Funko and we think Funko is going to come out of this, but they really need to buckle down. And this new CEO, who is an intern CEO, but I'm assuming if he does a good job, they will keep him.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Mick said, he doesn't need to be the face of Funko. I think Mike is actually doing more behind the scenes than we all maybe do think. And he's going to write this ship back to the golden era of Funko, in my opinion, where we're going to have less, but less is better than just a bunch of trash that they just keep throwing all over the shelves, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like that's the biggest thing that came out of this was, like we'll go into a little bit of detail, but specifically in regards to cutting things down and being a little bit more, specific on what they're going to be coming out, not just overdoing it, which we've been talking about this for so
Forever.
long. Like it has been before like these big issues have come out, we were mentioning this, that like Funko was doing too much and they were making too much and it was just getting out of control. And this company kind of has gone through a lot of changes in the last like 3 years, I want to say, 2 to 3 years. And it's been, a pretty wild ride because when you think about it from where they were way back in the OG days when you really originally started
Yeah.
collecting, and then kind of when I started, and then the pandemic happened, we all know that this was one of the companies that like the pandemic really affected. And it was in both a positive and negative way, I guess you could say.
Yep.
because that's where they blew up. We always said this, they blew up too fast. And it was kind of like they didn't know what to do with it because they just continued to try to grow, but they were never going to be that Mattel Hasbro type of company because that's just not who
They are.
was their biggest fans. Yeah, that's not what they're really genuinely were. Now, it felt like they were trying to get away from being a collector's company, which is odd because Brian, of all people, was like the big,
Yeah.
that's what he loved in collecting. And whether maybe it was just him being burnt out or maybe he just didn't have as much say as we thought he should have had, the company was not going that route, for being honest, right?
Yeah.
But now it seems like they kind of got it, their reins tied back, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. They obviously lost tons of money, but companies lose money all the time. It's more, can you come back from that? Can you make changes? And are you being like strategic in what you're doing? And I think that's what this company is starting to do, which is making it like me and Charlie both say, like, we don't think Funko's over and they're going to be
Yeah.
done. Like, we think they'll get out of this because what we're hearing is positive, and that's what's good, is hearing that they have some type of plan and they're trying to get this thing going or whatever. But the call obviously happened, it was long, it was a bunch of stuff, so I did get a couple little like paragraphs that I thought were pretty interesting because they specifically talk about some of the stuff that Michael was talking about. And he basically said, so over the past 2 years, we lost sight of the importance of these competencies. And as a result, the number of product lines and SKUs that we have produced have grown rapidly, which we obviously all know, bringing too much complexity to the business with too little return. Duh. It's like such obvious stuff, right? We believe that the best path forward for Funko is to focus our energy on fewer product lines and fewer SKUs. Using a data-driven and strategically informed approach, we are taking out products that were not adding significantly to the top line and not helping the bottom line. So when you see that, it's kind of like
Uh,
obvious, right? Like
yeah.
that's what they should be doing. But it's good to hear like that as a big focal point. And we've said it, like it's not necessarily that they have too many licenses, because there's definitely some licenses that they should have that they don't have.
Yeah.
It's just that they've, like, Marvel is a perfect example. Like they just butcher,
Milked
they
that.
just, yeah, they go crazy on that line, and it's like there's just too many versions, there's too many metallics and golds and this, and there's just too many SKUs. When it comes down to SKUs, obviously a product code, so it's just too much of that. Besides that, they also said their plan is to reduce their product lines by 30% and their SKUs by a similar amount. So obviously that means their main lines, which we're going to talk about, what does that mean? But that means they're going to cut out some stuff that they're making that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily Funko Pops, let's say, or whatever. And obviously the amount of everything is going to also go down, right? So they're going to result in a leaner company, which is driven factor behind the reduction in workforce that enacted last week as well, which we're going to talk about that. So they obviously cut people down. So they're just really trying to trim things down, whether it's
Yeah.
workers, product, they're trying to make it lean.
Everything.
And it makes sense because then they could probably put, well, hopefully they could put more time and effort into what they put out so that everything that comes out is a better product, right? Not just tons of stuff
Correct.
that they're just going to lose money on. But it does say that obviously this focus doesn't mean that they're going to stop innovating. They will put more efforts beyond key value driven initiatives, and choose those initiatives using hard data. So obviously they're very data driven. It seems like this guy Mike is, but I like kind of what he's saying out of this. And then this was a very important too. It says we're returning to our roots as a fast moving entrepreneurial disruptor that knows the dollars we spend must perform. So obviously, like, if they're going to go back to what they used to be, and that's interesting, but because they even said that they're going to be running a business like a lean startup, which that's kind of like crazy because that makes you think like they're really going to be cutting.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just a lot. It's a lot to kind of take in when you really hear it, like all these words. Like you've been hearing people like, oh, they're cutting, they're doing this, but when you start reading the actual, like what they said, it's like there's a lot into that. So I don't know. What were your kind of your thoughts on like some of the main stuff Michael said?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that pops into mind is like, you know what? I get why Funko grew so big. I mean, they got the taste, like,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, they're a publicly traded company. You need to make the shareholders happy. How do you do that? You want to try keep making more money. And that is why they felt that they could just keep making more SKUs, more products, more lines. Let's blow this up, which ultimately, as we all know, that didn't work. So I think this business plan is exactly what the company needs. And I do think, like we said, this is what's going to make Funko fun again.
Hmm.
I think we're going to get back to more limited pieces. They're going to give the fans what they want. Um, they're not going to be making things just for the sake of making them. And I know sometimes we've gone, especially myself, like the one thing I've always loved about Funko is they still would make something for everyone. I still think they can do that. It's just going to be in a more niche way. And the thing that I like the most about what the new CEO has said is the actually cutting 30% of the product line, because
Hmm.
there's just stuff out there that we don't need, that Funko probably just never have, it's just crazy. It, like, most people still probably just think of Funko, if you're not like in it, the pops, but
Yeah.
you go to Target, I mean, they have the games on the shelves, they have mystery minis, they have this and that, plushies, everything. Some of
Hmm.
that stuff is going to go, and I think they didn't need them, and they now know they didn't need them. And you know what? Maybe if they still want to stay in like the game space, for example, they could partner with like another company. So it's
Yeah.
not just all on them. Like, I don't think they need to. I think if we want to start talking about products we think that will go, I do
Yeah.
think that will be one of the first things to go. I
Yeah.
don't think
I'll
anyone really buys them, even though some of the games are good, they're shelf warmers.
No, I agree. There's plenty of stuff like we'll go into kind of what we think is going to be cut, and obviously things we pretty much have heard are going to be or what we think should be. But to kind of go off of what you said, I totally agree. Like it's just they clearly blew up too fast, like you were saying, and everything, and then now they're finally cutting back on this stuff. Now the thing is like this company can obviously dabble in other,
Yeah,
spaces. Like it's okay to come out with a line here and there, but they just kind of were coming out with lines that weren't doing well, and then they would just double up on it and then coming out with another one. Because like we all know, like this company hasn't been perfect with everything they come out. Like they've come out with, I mean, think about like the Dorbs line, right? That was which I thought was a pretty cool line, but it didn't do,
agreed.
as well as they probably thought, and they got rid of it. That's what they should do. That's what companies do. You try it and burn it, it's whatever. But they were like riding some of these things and then just coming out with more. And then at the same time, they're multiplying their profitable lines like pops and sodas, like, and just making stuff that was just like useless. So now you just got stuff everywhere. I know a big issue too was like the big companies, big box companies were
Yeah,
just not really ordering as much anymore because they have stuff that's just sitting on shelves, and like that's clearly affecting them at the end of the day. They obviously have their own, e-commerce, their own online type thing, and they even have stores and stuff. But for the most part, people could buy Funko products like in a lot of places. Like we even see now freaking grocery stores and places like have Funko Pops
yeah.
sometimes.
I
And
mean,
it's like it's all
I
over.
know it's crazy. I mean, and I know like they've had exclusives for a while, but like Walgreens probably doesn't need Funko Pops anymore. They actually
Hmm.
haven't really had a exclusive in a while. And it's just pulling out of certain places like that and kind of making, like, I remember back in the day, like the go-to place to get Funko Pops was Barnes and Noble. And like, one, I wouldn't even go there anymore, which is kind of crazy. And their selection now is even like so minimal.
Yeah.
Um, it's just so interesting too. One thing that's so I would like to see if they can help fix, that I think will go along with the fans, is also like the shipping factor of it. Because
Yeah.
back in the day, which is crazy to think that you couldn't just go online on Amazon, Funko.com, tons of different places and just order your pops. You had to go hunt for them. And hunting is still fun. Like, I kind of wish it was a little more into that game again, but now it's like people just don't do that anymore. But then they get shipped and they're trashed. Like,
Yeah. The
that's like
shipping
something
is
they really need to fix.
the shipping has to, like, something has to happen. And it's like it's always like that double-edged sword in the sense of like who is at fault when it comes to shipping. Like, is it the company that's sending it? Is it the actual, UPS, FedEx, whatever
Yeah,
it may be? Like, there's so many factors into that. But there are processes, there's forms of shipping that are more secure. Like you pay more, obviously, because that's better shipping than other ones. Like that's been around forever. That's just the
forever.
way,
Yeah.
shipping is in general. But it is interesting to see like what that means going forward. And I mean, it seems like for the most part, their main shipping is UPS, right? Usually
Yeah.
when you get stuff is UPS, not necessarily
It is.
FedEx or
And I don't even
um
necessarily mean the carrier. I mean the way they
no, no. Yeah,
pack
yeah,
the,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
No, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
there's multiple factors
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that. But I was gonna say the reason why I mentioned this specifically is because I know this just recently happened. But UPS just recently had a huge like union contract agreement,
Yeah.
and like now they're paying their drivers like ridiculous. Like they're getting six figures, these guys. So like I don't know what that means for shipping in general. Like, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Are they gonna be, better workers? Are they gonna be lazier? Like, who knows? But like that's a
It's
whole nother
crazy.
thing.
Yeah.
But yes, the way they ship things and the fact that they don't put bubble wrap certain things, and sometimes they have it's just the inconsistency has always been a mess when it comes to the warehouse and how things are boxed up even before it gets to the carrier. Exactly like you're saying. But
It's
yeah,
just
line.
interesting though. One thing I want to bring up
Good.
though about that, that is a cost saving factor now that like no one's really talking about, I feel like in the community. The reason we're not getting those all that cardboard
Mhm.
that all those sorters were in because that costs money.
Yeah,
Now they're buying that bubble wrap in bulk for nothing, wrapping it up. And now I'm still hoping they're still going to be nice to the consumers if it does come damaged. But I think that is something, regardless, they need to fix that, just in my opinion, not to keep going off on this. You're just going to keep pissing your fan off more and more. If they don't fix that, they are going to be in trouble.
yeah. And that's just standard. Like, come on, like you're sending something that is deemed a collectible, it comes in a box, like there needs to be some type of safety behind that, like what you're doing. And they've gone through multiple versions of different sorters. They've gone into that like longer version of the sorter. They've gone to bow wrap, but now it seems like with certain stuff, they're just like you said, they're saving money for sure on like what they're sending, and that's the reason why they don't send things in hard stacks and stuff. So like that's interesting. Like
Yeah.
the one thing which always used to come in hard stack was those damn artist series, which is so stupid that they wasted money doing that. Um, but the pop yourself pop, if you choose, there's an option. Obviously, pay for the protector, which is like the $8 Funko hard stack that they make. The pop does ship in that, so it's not like it just ships it with
Yeah.
it. They
Which is
ship
good.
in it if you choose to, and that should be an option for a lot of things, especially like I know we talk about this all the time. We're gonna talk about it later, but NFTs, like that should be an option for even if you have to pay
Yes.
a little bit more, people will pay that because that's something they want to make sure is getting to them in good condition. And it's just something that they don't do. So I don't know why. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the lines that we think will be cut or should be cut from Funko based off of this whole 30% of stuff is
Yeah.
going to be gone. So obviously the obvious Funko Pops and Funko Sodas are going to, for the most part, we believe they're going to stick around.
Yeah.
There'll be probably some other lines that will stick around that maybe we aren't the biggest fans of. But first thing I'm going to say is the gold. The Funko Gold
Yes.
line
Ding, 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 ding.
should go. I think it will go. I think we've kind of noticed they've like held back on that already. Like we even talked about that baseball one that was like a rumor, and then now it's coming out at a baseball game, and they never announced any other ones of baseball. So like, yeah, we've gotten a few announcements here and there, like music mostly related ones, but they're not really doing well. They're on shelves. They're not
Yeah.
selling. The big ones definitely don't sell. You see them everywhere, chases everywhere. So that's something that's got to go. I know you have thought that had to go since the beginning, but
Yeah.
at
They're
least they tried it out. They put a lot into that. I mean, the fact they had a whole damn room with a throne just for that, and
they
the
put
amount
way
they
too
probably
much
paid
into
all
that.
those damn athletes and celebrities to like appear as well for nothing. So
It's just funny you say
that's
that. I think
number
that's
one.
probably why they let that run its course for so long. I love that you brought up before, like Dorbs. They had them for a while. They realized they weren't
Mhm.
working. They got rid of them. They had that like rock candy line. They had it for a little bit, even though there's fans to it. It didn't work. They got rid of it. I feel like gold. They were too tied up in I probably the sports licensing that they're like, we need to milk this. But
Yeah,
it's the only thing I've been really thinking about that recently. Why has that gone on for so long? I would see those legitimately we've talked about this before, but no one wants them.
no,
So I think that's definitely a line to go. Another one, which I actually thought was a cool idea, but it was not executed correctly, and they got to go is the Popsies. People don't know what they are. They did a bad job marketing them as cards.
yeah,
Um, and they don't have a way for you to they should have done a way to for you to like actually buy those and send them to people if you wanted and wrote a message. Like they just totally butchered that. So I do think that's a line that's probably going to go as well.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't, and they made a ton of them, and they kind of just they came out in a weird way. Yeah, like you said, but they're probably not costing them as much. Like when we compare like
Yeah,
Popsies to
no,
gold, like gold is clearly probably costs a lot more to make, so they'll probably save more money. But the amount of Popsies that they have, like, what's the point of that? Like, if they want to cut back and be lean, like, yeah, get rid of all those SKUs. Like, just completely get rid of that line. Um, Another one I think is, and you kind of mentioned it, is the games line.
yeah.
I don't see, anyone really going crazy after them. They make multiple different kinds of games. I know there's like the main one, which is what's the actual name of it? It's like where they
Oh,
have the
pop
figures,
verse.
like the verse ones,
Yeah,
yeah. Where it's like a game, but they have like a board and then there's like small little figures in it. Like I actually own a couple like DC ones, and it was only because of the figures. I've never opened them. I don't even know what the game actually is like,
yeah.
but there's those. There's other board games. I guess we can even throw puzzles in there because they also make like puzzles and stuff. So like that whole like that version of games, like I don't see the point of them. You see them here and there at random stores, and they're just not obviously selling. So, and they're always on the website available or like on clearance or something. So
Yep.
that's something that could definitely go.
Yeah, I completely agree because they also did a bad job with like not everything. They kind of made Funko Games as like just a brand in itself, but it didn't look like it was a Funko product. Like you can go right
Yeah.
now to Target. There's an Indiana Jones game. It just looks like an Indiana Jones game. There's nothing pop, soda, anything about it. Like they obviously tried that with that pop verse game, and then they like went down a rabbit hole. But yeah, I
Hmm.
think those have to go. Um, Another thing that I think is gonna go, which we'll probably be happy about, I think common sodas, that's gonna run its course and be done. We're obviously not getting rid of sodas, but
So
I
the
think
like the no
the
numbered ones.
no numbered ones, I think
Okay.
fans have spoken. They're very clearly not selling. They're being shown in retail. People ripping them open, trying to like find. I mean, I've even seen people rip them open and leave the chase there. Like it's wild. Like it's I was a fan of the idea when they first came out, but now if it's something that's going to help them be lean, it's also going to make the overall community more happy because I know I'm a minority in that, but now I've seen the light a little bit and like they made too many of them and there's just no point to them.
Yeah, I never really liked them. Obviously, I was always kind of like,
Yep.
"What's the point of this?" And I agree. It's just kind of, and we kind of said it when it comes to soda. Like when it comes to money, like maybe those are pretty pricey because of aluminum and the
Yeah.
cans and all that kind of stuff. So like we love soda. So like definitely don't get rid of sodas in general. But like make sodas what they used to be. Make them more a limited number, so that limits the piece counts right there. So you don't have to go crazy. Don't make 25,000 piece ones. Like no,
Yeah.
keep it to 10, 12, 7, like keep it to those numbers, and don't make these ones that you just have no limit to, because that's just doing everything against what you just said. So it wouldn't make sense to continue that. So I would agree that that's something that probably should stop, because sodas are obviously very popular, but those ones don't seem to usually be popular anyways, and they're kind of defeating the purpose of you're just kind of mass producing them, which you don't want to be that kind of company. Don't mass produce sodas with no piece
Yep.
count, basically. But even like to tie to that, regular sodas, I think they should also become a little more limited like they used to be,
Agreed.
and not be such big numbers that they do. Because their numbers are all over the place. Like sometimes they'll come out with really like low number ones and then some really high. So like make that more consistently something that's lower, because it's gonna drive more people to be more excited for them anyways. In terms of like, us. But another line that I think should be gone, and it's just started,
Oh, yep.
and it's the rewinds. um just because I don't think that's going to be something that's going to really be as popular as maybe they thought it would have been. They obviously put a lot into that because they had a whole booth and a big Blockbuster looking store. Like they had some kind of connection with Blockbuster because they made it tailored to Blockbuster with the card, and that they
Yep.
were called Blockbuster Rewinds. um I don't love the figures. Like they're cool, but they're too plain in the face and whatever. Like, and it's biting off of a soda. Like it just doesn't make sense to have both of them. Like they kind of would the same kind of collector, would maybe go after them. You don't really need to have both. Uh, but a prime example is just look at the fact that they're just not selling. Like they obviously had the ones that came in that Fun on the Run box, which everyone kind of just had, and then they had a first wave. They were super delayed. The con ones didn't come out on time unless you were there, and then they decided to just drop everything at the same time. And now it's all sitting there, and it's none of them, I believe, are even selling out. Even the con ones, which are
No.
supposed to be a little bit more limited, I would assume, and then the general common line, which had some pretty big franchise names in it, are just not really selling. So like I was never a big fan. I know you kind of like this, so you can kind of piggyback off this if you want, but I didn't really think the line was good in general. So I'm in that side of the collector where I would never buy it. But there's obviously some people that liked it, like yourself. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming you still agree that it's probably not a profitable line that they need to have stick around.
Yeah, I agree. I actually love them. I did get a few of them already. They're super cool in my opinion. I actually like the size of them. I love the whole concept, but you took the words right in my mouth. The fact that you can still go online and none of them sold out, the con ones, no one, the demand's not there for them. So they're gonna look at that. Even if there's people there, it's not, that's gonna be the new way for Funko. If it does not sell, we're
Mhm.
gonna have to get rid of it. And
Which is
you
smart.
may not see these changes for like a year because the production line is already going, but yeah, I unfortunately don't think they're gonna make it out alive.
No.
Another product that I think is gonna have to go away is pins. Pop pins, the miscellaneous pins they'll make for certain lines that they'll become Target's exclusives. There's tons of pin collectors out there. I used to love getting pins, but there's nothing like collectible about these. They're cool, but once again, it's like if you're a huge Star Wars fan and you want to have one of these pins on your desk or your display or whatever, like it's cool, but they like just kept making them and making them like they did with everything. And like I don't think anyone really wants them. So I think they're gonna have to get rid of those as well.
Yeah. And we all know, obviously, they kind of tried to just come out and compete with like Fig
Yeah.
Pin and some other people that make pins and stuff. So, like, they, I like Fig Pin has more detail. Like, they look a little cool, a little smaller. So, like, these were usually a little bit bigger. They were essentially just a Funko Pop, a cutout of them in a flat form with a, backing or whatever. They had different versions. There's chases and stuff like that. But like one, they were just like, yeah, they made too many of them. These are another thing. If you go to the website, like this is a perfect example. Just look at their website and whatever's just sitting there, like they should get rid of that. And this is another one. There's just lines of tons of
Yeah.
those pins and they just don't sell. I literally have, I think, maybe two, like a Joker and a Batman, which I got super long time ago just to kind of have them and see what they were like. I even think they're kind of like that leather feel. I don't know
Yeah.
if all of them are like that, but they're like
I
with
don't think they all are,
like that
but
cushion, like kind of, which was pretty cool. But like one, I can't display them. Like unless I take them out and like put
yep.
them somewhere, but like in the box they can't stand right. So like it was always weird. So I was like, I'm not gonna get these anymore. But yeah, that's something that's just to me like a waste, and it's probably cost them like a decent amount because to make those, like
Agreed.
who knows? But yeah, not
And
not
like
necessarily the best.
one thing too, you just said like they clearly made those compete with Figpin, but Figpin is better at it than them, and that's all Figpin makes. Like Funko needs to go like, which is probably what they're doing. We can still have a few lines, but it's like do something and just be great at it.
Yeah.
Don't just like make tons of stuff and be mediocre.
hmm And that's they're starting to see that. But
Yeah,
I mean, they kind of could get away with that, I guess, for a few years. And I think now it's getting to a point that's like it's
agreed.
too much of
I
a
don't
loss.
blame them for it. It's just unfortunate that they kept, I feel like they just kept doubling down on it. And I think people weren't paying attention to the business like they should have.
Yeah. And I agree. And obviously they make like the smaller pins that come with certain things and whatever, like that's fine. But these are just like the big pop
Yep.
pins that just like that whole line. We don't
I
really
even
need
think they
that.
should get rid of those. It's like
The
going,
smaller ones.
I think even though I know some people like them, but I would even get rid of like they even try to make backpacks like they own Loungefly and they're making backpacks that are like shittier quality of the Loungefly ones. It's like just don't make them anymore. Like I think that's another thing that's probably just gonna go away. Like Loungefly, I think that is, I'm not sure, but I do think that's a profitable part of the company, even though
Yeah.
they've gone ham with those as well. I feel like
Yeah.
they make way too many.
I mean, they're pricey. So
Yes, but people are like, I see some people like in the community like that's their main collection. It's just like insane to me.
yeah.
But
Yeah, no, really.
like I don't think Loungefly will go, but I don't think they should be making bags that look exactly the same when they own that company.
Yeah, I agree. Like don't, that's just kind of a waste. Like just make the money off of
Yeah.
the product that you're already, partnered with. Something I think should go is all the mini stuff, mystery minis and like those blind bag things. Like I just think they make too many of them. Like I understand why they make them, and I know that they do probably sell, but I see a lot of them at Targets and stuff, and boxes ripped open with a bunch of them. And like, I think the whole like mystery thing for Funko kind of is like losing its fizzle in terms of like what you would get like I don't think as many people are buying like full cases of things anymore, even
No,
sodas and pops like they used to. So I feel like when it comes to those, like maybe they could still have them here and there, but I don't know. I think that's something that could easily be cut back, maybe not necessarily just completely gone. Um, but I think if they keep something when it comes to the smalls, maybe the biddy stuff, like I don't think they should get rid of
I
biddies
don't think biddies are going to go away.
because I think they are pretty profitable and they're probably not too expensive. They're probably making some pretty good money on that. Um, but I just think there's too many of these mini versions of things, and there's just too many of those. And that can this can kind of, it's a different line, but it can, I guess if they wanted to come out with that, they would just stick to maybe just like the advent calendars, which
Yeah,
I don't want to say they can get rid of those because like those are once in a while. They're for
they're fun.
holidays, they're just here and there. They're fun. They got small versions of things. Like make that be them. But I don't know. Is there anything else that you think?
Those are the main things, but it's funny. I do agree with you. The mystery minis, even though I do enjoy those, like I have fun buying those with my son, but only if it's like a property we love. Like I've been recently getting some of the Turtles ones. But one thing that
Mhm.
they did that I just don't like is like Funko shouldn't be making exclusives for five and below. Like that
Yeah.
extremely dilutes the brand. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's a great store to go get, especially little trinkets for your kids. But when Funko is making a product for them, that's crazy. And like one thing
Yeah.
that they just recently did that kind of pissed me off for the Turtles line was they made what they considered the common ones all just open box, five and below exclusives for cheaper than what you'd go to buy the blind box ones at like a Target. When your odds were not in your favor of pulling anything different than what you could just go
The
see and pick
point
out
of
what you
that.
want at five and below. I don't like that strategy at all. I think it's messed up.
Yeah. I don't understand why they would even do that.
Yeah, they shouldn't at all. And it's just like they're preying on people trying to get the mission. Like Funko is good at doing that actually, which I kind of don't want them to do much more in the future. And maybe it's bit them in the ass of like the whole, like you said, like the mystery thing. Like I feel like for like an adult collector like ourselves, that just like it's fun for sodas, but it's like if you're getting the chase, but the more you like open it up with like the mystery minis, yeah, not to go on off on that one, but I do 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, let us know if you guys think of any lines or something that they should get rid of, or, if you don't agree with some stuff that we said that they shouldn't get rid of or whatever, just like let us know because there's probably a ton of other lines and things that maybe we're not really thinking of. I do know they make like a lot of weird, obscure stuff as well, which I'm sure those will automatically be
Yeah,
gone. But these are some of just the major big lines that we see and that probably were just a big waste. Um, but I did want to mention something when we spoke about it before we kind of hinted towards it about the cuts when it came to the actual
yeah,
staff as well. So besides product and stuff, they're also going to be making a cut. There's about 180 people they said that they laid off and they got rid of, which is about 17% of their workforce. So pretty, good chunk of people. Obviously, sucks that those people are going to be let go because, they're not going to be
yeah,
with a job and hopefully they can find something else, especially if they're very talented at what they do. They can hopefully find something different because we did hear a lot of them were like artists and things like that, which we don't want that to happen when it comes to Funko, because that's a main part that we like when it comes to molds and like what's actually coming out and the product itself being good. And if they're going to make things lean, hopefully they're making sure that they're keeping an awesome staff and team to make sure that everything that comes out is like high end. You know, you don't want to just come
Yeah.
out with garbage. I did do some numbers up because it was interesting. It said that's going to save them $20 million a year. So obviously that's a chunk of money right there. They lost like 70 million. So that'll try to help them make some
Yeah.
money back. But what I found interesting was, because I was like, all right, well, if there's 180 of them and they're losing 20 million, like what's that math add up to, right? And it's about $111,000 in salary a year. So in reality, like that means that they pretty much let go of some pretty good positions. Like it doesn't mean that they let go of just like random
Yeah.
shop
No.
worker, you know, who's making minimum wage or something like that. Like they're obviously like high end people. So hopefully it doesn't hurt them and they know what they're doing with who they're letting go. Cause obviously we know companies go through this all the time where they have to let people go. It's just the way business is. Especially when they have to start cutting in costs, they usually get rid of people. That's kind of
Yeah.
like
The
one of the
first thing you
first
do.
things they do. Yeah, so they got to figure that out. But it's interesting to see like the numbers behind it, and I don't know what your thoughts are on when it comes to that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's as much as I do feel terrible, and I've been someone who's been on both sides of the coin with situations like this. It's really sucks, but it is just business. It's not personal.
Hmm.
I do know that they probably did let go of some awesome people who hopefully will get their feet up. You know, there's always, I am a big believer, everything always happens for a reason.
Hmm.
And it stinks, but like I said, it just is business. Funko is a huge corporation, and unfortunately, you are super super talented, you are just a number on a piece of paper. It just is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. It's sad to say it that way, but
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like you're wrong. Like obviously, it's just the way it is. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously that's some of the main stuff
yeah,
behind kind of what's going on. We both are in the mindset that like obviously this is something good for Funko in the sense of overall cutting things back, making it lean, getting rid of a lot of these products, making sure you're coming out with quality, not quantity, because that's what they kind of ran into. They blew up and they just wanted to go out with quantity, but people did not like that, did not react the way they probably thought people were going to. Funko's not dead. They're not going to be gone. They're not getting, you know, the company's not going to just go under, but there's obviously
yeah,
like a wave that they got to go through to get things back going. And like I said, I liked hearing the words from Michael, the new, you know, acting CEO, and kind of where his mind is. It seems like they're going in the right way. And then also one of the people that was speaking more than Michael even actually was the CFO slash COO. I guess he's both positions. Steve Nave or Navi, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but
okay,
he obviously is one that handles the money and everything. So every time I was talking about that, he was mostly the one that was speaking about that. But his mindset seems to be in the same kind of place as Michael, where they want to go with this company and getting it back to where it was. So it's kind of good to hear that at least. Um, but we'll transition over now into just like a quick thing before we get into the NFTs, because I know we want to talk about that, which was an event that they're going to be doing, which is HQ Fest, which it's like an event. It was confusing because at first I thought it was going to
yeah,
be something a little different than it actually is. But this is going to be on the 26th, August 26th, which is a Saturday. And I believe it's just kind of like a sale, right? It's like a sale
yeah,
at the headquarters. I know they showed some cool pictures and they showed like Funko ice cream. They showed like sodas still and pops and things like that. So it's like the look was really cool because it was very retro. It was very old school Funko. What we think of Fun Maker Mike from back in the day, like what they
yes,
really were back in the beginning. It kind of seems like they're trying to bring that at least vibe and that feel. But this seems like it's going to kind of just be like a almost like the warehouse sale type of thing, just like a big sale event party type of thing, not necessarily like an exclusive event like FunCon, which I know we thought originally that's what it was, but I don't think that's what it's going to
yeah.
be, right?
No, I agree. Like maybe they'll surprise us and have like some sort of exclusive, which I think would be cool if they had one. Maybe they have Freddie wearing that like apron, that old school hat that you're seeing, like with him serving the ice cream. Like that's another thing too. Speaking of this event, like I think Funko needs to start doing more, is being much more so like limited in terms of not just piece count, but like this event has a special thing,
Hmm.
not a million special things, which then makes people more want that because it's not special when there's tons. So this event could maybe have that, but like you said, if you look at the fine print, it's kind of like spectacular deals, and it's like
Yeah, yeah,
I feel like they're gonna have something fun. It's gonna be like a social media moments for content creators. You can come take some cool pictures. Sure, Freddie Funko will be there. Mike's gonna be doing his thing, and they're probably just gonna have like crazy sales to try to push out some product.
yeah,
But I do think it'll be a fun time. They'll probably have raffles. They'll give away the social media Freddies. I think it's smart. I think it could be like a nice reset of like everyone come to this awesome event. This is why you love Funko. Like they want to get you into like they want only positive press and PR right now. And like
hmm,
I'm sure they're thinking this is probably something that could do that, especially after the debacle of Fun Days.
yeah, yeah. I know that craziness. But yeah, it's cool, it's interesting, and we'll kind of see how it goes. But I do like the theme and the vibe and everything that they had going on with it. Um, but let's transition over to NFTs
Yeah.
because we obviously are some two big collectors. We talk about it all the time. It's been a really long time. It's been like a month over that we've gotten a drop. We had some issues and some things going on when it came to NFTs. Obviously, we kind of voiced it in the last episode when we started seeing common pops that were announced, whether it was like the House of Dragon pops, the even the Dungeons and Dragons. Like a lot of those were very similar to NFT redeemables that we already saw. And then we got another one announced, and this one was just like, what the
This
hell?
is the holy grail of
Yeah.
being the worst.
And it was a Power Rangers pop. It was well, it's
The
not really
Ranger
the Pink
Slayer.
Ranger, but Ranger Slayer was announced, and it was literally the exact same thing. Well, all right, it was a little different, but it was essentially the same thing as one of the redeemables. Pose was just barely a little different.
It's
Both had a
better.
bow. It actually looked better, and they have a chase that was glow in the dark, which also was better than what we would have thought was the high end redeemable version from the NFTs. And that just caused an uproar. Obviously, everyone was kind of crazy. I had to grab Charlie from jumping off the ledge because he was very close, and I think he's still very close to just
Yeah.
getting rid of NFTs completely because of what he thought. But I want you to voice your opinion because I know you were very strong against this, especially with everything you were dealing with your NFTs not being shipped and all that debacle, which you got them, thankfully. I don't know if we ever mentioned what happened with that,
We
but you
we
can
did
go
it.
in. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can go into that if you want and go into your whole
I'll
spiel
tell
when it
that
comes
fun
to
story
NFTs.
because yeah, my Power Rangers ones were basically lost. Um Drop was not helping me. I was freaking out. Honestly, this was my like number one drop. I got all of them actually, besides the grill. I wasn't lucky enough to get that one. But
Oh, Power Rangers too, right? Wow, it's all
it's
connected. I
all
didn't
Power
even think
Rangers. It's
about it. Yeah, I didn't
all
think about
connected.
it.
And Drop just like wasn't helping me. No one was responding. They were acting like I was an idiot that I couldn't read a screen or didn't know anything about a tracking number.
Yeah.
It was actually really insulting to not only my intelligence, but I know to the whole community. And luckily, I was able to use a personal contact who does business for the United States Postal Service, and they tracked down that package for me. I'm being totally real. If I didn't have this contact, I don't think I'd ever see this package. And because I see the exact same thing that happened to me happening to a lot of people in the drop Discord. And luckily, the thing that sucks is they shipped a lot of these right after the strike was about to happen for UPS. And I'm sure a bunch
Hmm.
of the workers were just like, screw this. I don't really care. I'm not going to deliver my stuff or like
Yep, that definitely happened.
this or that. And the other thing that's terrible is, the Funko uses they have the cheapest shipping possible where they have the partnership where UPS then drops it off to the United States Postal Service. So it takes even longer. It's cheaper for them. It's worse for the consumer. And when I got the package, lo and behold, hey, I'm happy I got them, but 50% of them were totally trashed. And
Yeah.
I mean like smashed. The Zordon's head was completely chopped off. The Ranger Slayer one was totally crushed. Other
Just buy the
boxes,
common though. Just buy the common.
I
It'll be
know,
good.
right? That's why I was just kind of funny. I was like, of all the ones to be totally damaged. And you know, the other ones had minor damages, which like I'm not happy about, but I'm happy I have them. There's some
Mhm.
people who I know are never going to see these pops in their collection ever. But after being the hustler that I am, and probably annoying the shit out of Drop, pardon my French, I actually finally got a response from them, which I know some people don't. So be persistent, legitimately bug them on Discord. Don't feel like you're driving them crazy or being like rude. Legitimately, I ask them every day. I actually got an email back from them, and I'm getting a new Zordon and Pink Ranger. You did have to send them back to them, which I totally fine, but I'm happy I'll be getting new ones of those.
Mhm.
But that just leads into that entire debacle. It just really got me thinking, which I know, Migs, you've always had issues with this, which I did, but it didn't bother me as much. And now it bothers me probably more. Like that drop happened a year ago, and I'm just getting these pops, and who knows if I would ever get them. Funko knows that, and it's just kind of like annoying. Like, they need to fix this with NFTs. Um, we can't be waiting this long anymore for all the hard-earned
Yeah.
money that we're paying. It's just not cool. And then to maybe not get them and then them not helping. Like if you're not part of this Discord, the drop official one, it's like sad to go read the customer service, like support like channel on there. It's insane that a professional company allows this to happen. Like I'm happy that they ultimately helped me, but they're something's got to be fixed.
I think what's interesting too is like each line is like different,
Yeah.
which is what's weird. Like there should be a consistency across. Like they should be like they put out the drop, it sells out in a certain amount of time. So it's not like some are there for months. Like they
Yeah.
sell out within the day and whatever, and they're done. Then they have a redemption period, which most of them are all out the same amount of time. You redeem it for only 30 days for that month or whatever it may be. And then when it comes out, the amount of time between that and when they actually decide to start shipping them, depending on the drop, is completely different. And it's just like interesting. Like I get it, like some are smaller lines,
Yeah.
but even the smaller lines take longer because the Jay and Silent Bob took forever, and that was one
Forever.
of the most limited lines, versus like a huge, massive line like the DC ones, which the series one, whatever, those shipped out pretty quick. So like it's just weird. Like, where's that inconsistency? Why is it so different between different lines, whatever? And yeah, like they obviously we'd like to say make them after the fact, but we know that that's not true because we've seen some of these things showing up beforehand,
Yeah.
way before they actually ship out. So we know that they're out there. But yeah, I've always had an issue with that because it's just like I always forget. Like honestly, I literally we just got the
Yeah.
Game of Thrones stuff in today, right? And I completely forgot. Like because in my mind, House of Dragon is what I've been thinking, and I know I redeemed those, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to get those. It's gonna be awesome. And then Game of Thrones came, and I was like, oh my god, I completely forgot Game of Thrones was even a line because I
I
was not
agree.
too far
Takes
before.
too long.
Yeah,
And I
so it's like crazy.
and I'll give a hot take too. At this point, I just want them to make every single one that they say is capable of getting. I truly think they should do that. It's still a super limited number. And I know Funko's trying to save money now, but they're printing money with the NFTs, as we say all the time. A
Mhm.
few making guaranteed a few extra molds and packaging is going to cost them absolutely nothing because these are wanted pops. You keep them in Funko to help people like myself. And then they can send out extras because they're going to get damaged. And if they don't want to send us in a case and they're still super limited, and I mean, it's the same like if you were to go to a con or a fun days, and I know we just had that whole debacle, so maybe it's a bad example, but they make a certain amount of pops, they make a certain amount of pops. I'm totally cool at this point with them doing this. Just don't sell them afterwards. Come on, someone should have the foresight to run this business to not be selling these like they did with the warehouse sale. And then that way they know these are coming out, they're made, and we can get them in like a reasonable. How amazing would it be if we lived in a world where we do this drop and we get them? You have your 90 days to collect everything, and then once you redeem that pop, it ships. That's
Mhm.
how it should be done, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we don't work for Drop. We don't know their process of
Yeah,
what's
no, we
going
don't.
on. And there's probably a reason to why some of this stuff happens. I just don't like the inconsistency part because it's just it's messy. Now, I'm not like we appreciate Drop, especially because
Yeah,
like you said,
they
you've
did
been
help
able
me.
to get them to help you. We've only heard great things from them in general, like the people that run Drop. but it's just kind of like, as a person who's on the outside doesn't know much, like it's kind of frustrating sometimes when it comes to how this is handled or how things happen. But tying it to like what we were just talking about, the whole Funko, not even just drop, Funko part of it, where they're making these pops and they're redoing them and they're just changing it up and now saying they're going to be part of a common line and they have chases and whatever, and these look better than the original ones. Like that part is like, that's very annoying,
That's not
because
cool.
if you're gonna make these very exclusive, especially because you're doing the NFTs first and they're the ones that are limited and exclusive, and like people are spending lots of money on them, like you can't be stupid and knowing that, okay, you just bought it for a pack. You know, everyone's not gonna pull everything in a pack. Like you got to know that they're buying these on the aftermarket. You're making money off of that aftermarket because
Yes.
we already know that. So like, you know that they clearly are being sold for high end, and these are grails and these are things that people really cherish and really want, especially when they redeem them. So for you to then come out with pops that look exactly the same is just kind of a slap in the face. And you've done it multiple times, and there's multiple ones coming out. And now the latest one was a Power Rangers one, like Charlie said, was a part of that line that just recently shipped out, and he's been gotten. You can see back there behind him, actually.
Yeah.
They finally came in, and people have those now. And now there's going to be a new wave of pops for Power Rangers. And we got this Chase and this like PX exclusive, whatever, which literally almost looks exactly the same. And that was like the heat of like, what the hell's going on with NFTs? Then you disappear and we don't see a drop or announced for like so long. I don't know if that was just to kind of die down on this, because the drop you decide to announce is series 2 of Power Rangers, which I just think was hilarious, because when you sent
It's
that and I
poetic.
saw it and it was like Power Rangers, and I was like, this new drop. Oh man, I look and I was like, wait, it's Power Rangers? That's hilarious, because it's awesome. We love Power Rangers. It's an awesome line. We're both excited about this line, obviously, especially when we get into what's going to be in it. But it's just funny how this company, and it kind of ties back to how we love this company no matter what, is that the good and the bad, they always find a way to pull us back in, because even though they make shitty stuff sometimes and they come out with terrible molds or terrible lines or terrible products, they always come out with something that's so fire that we're always like, that's what we need. It's just not all the time. But when they come out with it, we love it. And this is one of those
And I think this was
examples.
done totally on purpose because now
Oh,
people are all talking about this and how sick it is. And the only thing that's been an issue, which we obviously will get into it a little bit, some people are like, are we just going to get these then in a different action pose later on as comments? Which
of course. I mean, that's what
now
you
you
would
got to
think.
think of it that way because it's just so funny. The one thing that to go back before we start talking about series 2 about the Ranger Slayer pop in general, I understand why they're making a comment and it's a PX exclusive. Weirdly enough, that never should have been a part of Series 1 NFTs because that is a character from the comic line, which had absolutely nothing to do with all of the other redeemables
Yeah.
from the first series. It's almost like it's super weird where I feel like this new one, it's all connected. Part of me is like, did someone make a mistake when they did that and they made an NFTs and they already knew this was coming on? Like, not to give anyone any like credit, but like part of me is like, was this a mistake? Like the Power Ranger one is just so random, it puts a bad taste in people's mouths. Where at least like as shitty as House of Dragon is, you almost feel like you knew they had to make those characters in common pops
Mhm.
because they're the main characters of the show. This is not the case at all. And with this new series too, this is what we've always said. Like, this is super kind, even though it's Power Rangers, and I'm not going to call it niche, but it's from the movie, like the original theatrical movie, which like you either love or hate. Like, it kind of has like a nostalgic type feeling. I feel like for us, they've never made Funko Pops for this. Like, this is a sick NFT line. They should just keep doing this with NFTs and just don't make them as commons because odds are people don't want them as a common pop, not just because we don't want them remade. They're not like mainstream enough to become mass produced, if that makes
Which
sense.
which which maybe with what they're doing with the lines, that won't happen. Like maybe that will
Yeah.
be where they just won't make them. Because it's not like we're getting it gets Power Rangers is pretty popular, but like you said, like yeah, it's a little bit more specific. It's Power Rangers movie. and it's not Avengers. Like it's completely different.
Exactly.
Like it's not as big. So clearly, like they don't have to make that. Like if they want to cut back on SKUs, this is what you do. Make NFTs, only NFTs. Like that's part of the the thrill of people going
Yeah.
after stuff. Like make that the reason why those are different. Make it have that difference. Um, but I was gonna say, so the first line was just Power Rangers. It wasn't Power Rangers the movie specifically,
No,
right?
it was just it's funny because it was
Mighty
Mighty
Morphin
Morphin
Power
Power
Rangers.
Rangers, the original logo, which like technically, like I said, the Ranger Slayer is not even part of that.
Yeah. So so I just was saying that because it's also interesting that this is under drop. It's Power Rangers Series 2, even though it's technically different. But I guess because it's Power Rangers at
Yeah,
all,
I feel
like I
like that's what
guess.
they're gonna do.
So I guess like they could also do that with like the Ninja Turtles line, for instance. They can
Exactly.
go the comic, the cartoon, the movie. They can go those routes and still call it that series, another series, I guess. So I guess that's what they're gonna do. But yeah, just to get into this line real quick to finish up this NFT stuff. Definitely, this line came out of nowhere, like we said, but it looks
Out of
sick.
nowhere.
And what's awesome is it is the characters in like their ninja outfits, um, which is not something we've seen like at all, which is amazing. We've obviously 90% of the time we see them normal, in their suits and their helmets and everything. And we do have the wave of lines where they're not with the helmet, which is just a regular
Yeah.
face, and they're wearing the suits though. But now we got them with like the bandanas on, the color and everything. And I think we got uh Pink Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Blue Ranger, White
White
Ranger
Ranger
is the only ones that were like officially shown. The royalty is
is Freddy as
Freddy
ooze.
Ooze,
It's
which that looks so sick. Like
sick.
that looks really good. Like obviously Freddy is the one you got,
As the
right? Was the
Megazord is
Freddy as the Megazord,
sick.
yeah,
Yeah.
which was cool because like it's we've seen like that type of thing because we've seen Freddy as Transformers, and that's kind of like what it looks like, I guess you could say. But Megazord is obviously a big part of that, so it's like cool that that's what they went with, and they didn't pick like a Ranger. Like I'm glad they don't do that because then it's like kind of just pointing out one, and you don't really want to do
Yep.
that. The only thing I didn't like is like there are more Rangers than there's going to be redeemables, so it kind of like it's a little, it leaves out Black Ranger, and it leaves out Red Ranger, even, like, which is interesting, because we did see at least pictures of what we think is going to be the Grail. It hasn't
Yeah.
like officially been shown. The only official ones was the royalty and then the four legendaries, which was, do you know the name, her
It's funny.
name?
I don't her name is like I can't think of it right now, which is bothering because I knew it before we started here, but this is very niche for the movie. She helps the Power Rangers capturing the ooze. She's kind of got like an Amazonian type look. Um to me, maybe 9 out of 10 people look at this pop and are like, what? I'm like, this is cool. It should be for the NFT line. Like, I don't want to keep repeating it, but like, it's awesome. But to go off of missing the two Rangers, that's causing a lot of controversy within the community because they're like, what? I don't want this because it's not all the Rangers, or what? Are we going to
Mm-hmm.
get all of them later on? The only thing I'm thinking of, which I don't know if you remember this, when the movie happened, some of the main cast was replaced. These are two people who are not, this is not the original Black Ranger or Red Ranger. I wonder if they don't have their like they're not allowed to use their likeness.
It could be because it's their face, like
It's their
they're
face.
not, they don't have the helmet on.
So like they've made pops of everyone here besides the Yellow Ranger before. Because the Yellow Ranger's new as well. That's
Yeah.
the only I just find it to be I feel like that's why we're not getting them. I find it too big of a coincidence, especially like the Red Ranger, like that's like
Yeah,
something
that's
that's
the one
always
I
made.
would think. Yeah, that's like yellow maybe would not to say yellow's lesser,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
you would think red would be, well, obviously we don't have green. Was Green Ranger in the movie?
No, he's a White
No,
Ranger
no.
at this point.
Yeah, okay, he's already White Ranger. Okay, that's what I figured, but um and obviously we're getting him. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see
But
what,
then I
and
also
and
am
then
like,
and then also the White Ranger, like, do you think that thing's gonna be like
yeah,
a grail, being that
I
it's his face now and
I,
everything?
I do. I think that's going to be it's funny that they didn't
Make
make
that the
that the
grail.
grail, but then I mean it's funny too. It would have legitimately just copied like the last line, like
Yeah, yeah,
Tommy's
yeah.
still the grail.
Tommy.
Which if I'm being honest, I just assumed like the other one is so out of left field. But that's also interesting. Makes me wonder though, if we are going to get a common line, they don't make an ooze pop. So they made
No.
them no. So
But which would be cool because it's Freddy as him, so obviously make the regular version
it's
of that.
sick,
But
but it just this does
it's
get me
definitely
thinking.
interesting. But there's a lot of characters, and that's what kind of pigeonhole yourself into like what do we pick when it's too many of that are main characters,
Yep,
like it's like when you have like a boy band or something and you only have three or four, but there's five or six of them, like you're
yep.
gonna have to leave somebody out. So it kind of already seems a little off, and that's exactly like what this situation is. But I think it still looks pretty awesome. And I mean, they obviously didn't make all the Rangers in the first wave, like they skipped out on a few of them
Yeah.
as well, anyways. So
So it makes sense.
maybe because they already have red. Did they do Black Ranger in that line?
No,
No, damn. But they had a Red Ranger,
not a
so
good look, fuck.
yeah, come on.
But it's just funny though. I'm
But it
not
could
gonna
be the
lie.
likeness. I think that
I
could
think it
be the
is.
most likely. I mean, could be way off, but it could be the most likely because it's a face mold. It's not just the character and like the name and a helmet on type of thing. So that does make it interesting in like terms of like licensing and stuff. So but yeah, this is going to be a pretty cool. When did you know the
They
date of
come
it?
out next week, so next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay, wow. Okay,
Which is
so it's
funny.
been
If
a
this
while.
wasn't, I'm not gonna lie here. If this wasn't the drop, I probably was not participating. So Funko, you you won me back by this. A very smart move.
Yeah, it was a good one. And we know like there was certain ones that were going to be coming out that we've heard that we were pretty excited. This wasn't one that was like on the list.
This is not on
So
the list at all,
yeah,
which
yeah. So
makes me
it's
not
interesting.
yeah, not to interrupt you, but it makes me feel like this was a PR move, in my opinion. You're allowed to like they can maneuver it, which also may mean we're not going to get them for a long time because they weren't in the pipeline. I just find it interesting. We've had these leaked lists, they've never been wrong. And this is
Yeah, yeah.
nowhere near
Yeah,
anything.
just means that those are also options. Doesn't mean they're the only options, which we
E-
kind of figured,
But
but
they've always only ever been the only options.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's true.
They have. I still think they're all
But I
going to
think
come
because
to
this is a
life.
series two
It
is
may
what
not have
kind
been
of
on
makes
there.
it okay. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's not like it's a brand new line completely where we're just like, holy hell, they just came out with this. Like that would have been a little bit more like wowing. But um yeah, let us know. We definitely want to hear what you guys think down below
Yeah.
of this drop. And are you getting back into NFTs if you were out of them before? You were you never out of them at all? Or do you just not like NFTs? But definitely let us know your thoughts. It's an interesting one for sure. Definitely excited to see kind of how many cards come out in this, what they look like in the packs and stuff, because that royalty is definitely pretty fire. So
Yeah.
that's going to be one I think a lot of people are going to try to go after. It might be a little pricey. Um, but yeah, that'll be it as far as the news and stuff. Like we said, we just wanted to tailor around those two big main topics. Very exciting. I see you have that Ghastly up there. That looks pretty
Oh
fire. I
yeah.
haven't opened mine up yet. I actually was able to
Ghastly
get one
man,
too.
if what dude,
Look
I'm gonna give a
close.
shout out to Mischief Toys again. Like if you don't know about them, like the Ghastly, yeah, I got the new Ghost one. These are sick. They're
Yeah,
super
that one's
cool.
sick.
Created an original awesome character who you want to talk about like we talk about it like, oh my god, we got to get on this drop. Like, can we get it? Like this is
Dude,
like it's
it's
fun
30 seconds to a
and
minute. It's
it's
so thrilling.
done. It's so cool. So you should
And
really be checking them out.
they're legit on like stopping bots and people ordering too many. Like they look into that because they do their due diligence afterwards, and then they usually have a few left over because of duplicates and things like that, and they just make sure that that gets shut down. And that's how I was able to get it, because the first time it sold out so fast in my cart that then they do their Facebook group. They had a secondary like wave of like a handful of them because they're limited to what 300, I think, of the
This one
actual
was in
piece
the
count.
300. Yeah.
And it had like an extra like 20 or 15 or something. It was super low. And
I was
I went
pumped you
on and
got that.
I just pressed like pay right away. I didn't even care what information was on there. and it went through and it came to my house. So,
It's just
it
funny.
was
I'm
exciting.
happy that we are ending this episode, but I want to bring that up. Like, which, I wish Funko could do this, but obviously Mr. Toys is small and they really do care about their community. The fact that they do look at all the orders and they knew if there was duplicate orders or bots people shouldn't, and they canceled them
Hmm.
because that shows that they're about the fans, and like more companies need to be doing stuff like that. So just want to once again give them a shout out and go follow them over at Mischief Toys or at Gasselcast. And then obviously, you know where to follow us at Collector Chatter. And then you got at pop_Migs, and I'll say it right this time, at collector_Charlie. Hate having that underscore. It gives me like a tongue twister. Because someone has Collector Charlie. Can everyone just spam that dude who doesn't go on Instagram at
That's
all?
funny.
Tell them like I want my name. But yeah, and then if you haven't already, if you could please like this video, comment, let us know. I mean, we talked about so much stuff. Let us know what's on your mind, and then hit that notification bell so you know when new videos are coming out, because we're always dropping mad fire, especially on the YouTube channel. If you're listening on the podcast platform, we really appreciate that as well. Make sure you're following us over there so you know when episodes come out, but come on over to the YouTube channel to see some other stuff. So with that being said, everyone, collecting is the way. Until the next episode, later, everyone.
Bye, everybody.